Well, it would be my distinct privilege to walk you through these next few moments together on radio. Hi and welcome. The program is Nightsounds, and I'm Bill Pearce. This word walk is going to be a key word in our time together tonight, because I've entitled these moments, Watch Your Step. The other day I was in a recording studio, and there were all sorts of warning lines and signs around saying, watch your step, step up, and so on. I ignored them all. I didn't even see them. And of course I fell over that one step. And a couple of seconds later somebody said, watch your step. Well, sometimes we get the message after the fact when we should have been paying attention. At any rate, I'm very happy to have you with me tonight, and in our program, Watch Your Step, we're going to be speaking of walking through experiences that are meaningful, necessary during a day. Some of them are physical, as we have to preambulate from point to point. We do have to watch our step, especially if we're meeting stairways or corners or curbs or obstructions like those. I welcome you. I hope you can stay the entire half hour with us tonight. All of our music in these moments together will incorporate the word walk. And unless we're drifting aimlessly with no particular goal in sight, the word walking denotes destination. It would be good for us to be careful with whom we walk and where, keeping in mind our direction and our destiny. Perhaps these next few words in song could be our corporate prayer tonight.
Walk with me, talk to me, show me your love, your matchless love. Walk with me, lest my eyes no longer see all the glory, all the story of your love, your wondrous love. Talk to me, like you spoke so tenderly. When you talk there, when you walk there, by the sea, by the sea. Let me follow in the footsteps that trod the shore of Galilee. Let me learn to pray like he did in the garden of Gethsemane. Take my hand, teach me, Lord, to understand all my beauty, all the beauty of your love.
Beautiful song of prayer with which we open our program tonight, the Dick Bolts Chorale, the song Walk With Me. Nightsounds continuing with our title tonight, Watch Your Step. I'm thinking as we're concentrating on the word walk or step tonight, that fantastic account in the Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter 14, verses 24 through 32. Let's read them, okay? But the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Now in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It's a ghost." And they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Be of good cheer. It is I. Don't be afraid." And Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the waves." So he said, "Come." And when Peter had come down from the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, "Lord, save me!" And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him, and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. These words from Matthew 14. Well, Jesus knew very well what that night would hold for his men. He knew the weather forecasts. He sent them across that Sea of Galilee in a boat, saying he'd catch up with them later. Well, they thought it was going to be perhaps a routine commute to the other side. But Jesus knew it was going to be another pop quiz in faith. In his book, Meeting God at the Dead End, Ron Mayle said, "I love what D.L. Moody once wrote about hesitation. Quote, the only mistakes I've made in my life were when I took time to think twice. In other words, I once believed something. I was convinced of something. I once had no doubt about the rightness of my course, but now I'm not so sure. Now, well, maybe I'd better think it over a little." Doubt limits God in his working in our lives. It impacts what we do. It impacts what he can do for us and how he can help us. Ron in his book said, "Unbelief questions God. I don't believe that doubt equals unbelief, because it does question God's working. Unbelief says, God, I know what you say you can do, but I just can't believe it. Doubt says, I just can't imagine how God could do such a thing in and through someone like me. I can't comprehend him using me like that. It's beyond my frame of reference. It overwhelms me." Someone said God will work with us in our doubts, but he won't tolerate unbelief. When the sky is black and the waves are high, and we don't see any hope or help on the horizon, have we truly clung to him, believed in him, trusted in him? That's what Peter had to do. I prayed a prayer this morning. I used the word futility in my prayer. I don't think that's the kind of word God wants to hear in prayers, so I changed it to belief. To I may not understand, but I step out into the waves because your hand is outstretched. Tonight's program, Watch Your Step. I was going to call it Step Lively, or maybe even Baby Steps, but they didn't seem to apply to enough. But watch your step is something we all should do. I don't think Jesus is saying, "What am I going to do with you? You doubt everything." I believe the Lord is saying, "I'm coming alongside you because I want to encourage your faith. You were doing so well. Why did you turn back?" Tonight's program really is about spiritual risks. Far from being the worst doubter on that turbulent night, Peter was the leading character. He led the way in his faith. Who else climbed out of the boat that night? Who else fixed his eyes on Jesus, squared his shoulders, and started to hike across the waves? It wasn't John or James or Philip or even Andrew. It was Peter, who threw natural caution to the winds and attempted the impossible. "Lord," he shouted at that gale, "if it is really you, call me over to your side." So Jesus said, "Come on." And Peter went. He didn't go far, but given the man a little credit, he did walk on the water. In those brief miracle moments, the big fisherman came so very close to entering a whole new phase of life and of belief. He was almost there, but just when he'd almost reached that higher plane of walking with Jesus, he hesitated, and he lost it. Tonight's program, Watch Your Step. Speaking of spiritual risking. As I was thinking of the music tonight, an old classic came to my mind. You may remember it. "I walked today where Jesus walked." The only recording I could find of it, believe it or not, was a trombone solo that I made with the London Concert Orchestra some years ago. So if you don't mind an instrumental, maybe many of you will remember some of the words. "I walked today where Jesus walked, in days of long ago." Those of you who've been to the Holy Land can certainly relate to this. But right now we're speaking of the word faith. From the Nightsounds treasury of sacred music, the old classic I Walk Today Where Jesus Walked, trombone solo of the London Concert Orchestra. This is Nightsounds. I'm Bill Pearce, and our title tonight in our meeting together is Watch Your Step. Taking just a couple of seconds break here, may I remind you that Nightsounds will be going off the air in a few minutes. And as we often mention, we do continue in various forms, one of which you just heard. 13 albums of vocal and instrumental music. And in just a moment, since we're thinking of music around the word walk and step tonight, I only could find a couple of tunes, songs that were familiar, perhaps classics or gospel numbers or hymns, incorporating the word walk, and another of the sacred treasury numbers coming up in just a second or two. So many write in and ask for copies on audio cassette of the various titles that we touch on from step to step in our programming. And tonight's word, speaking of walking and stepping, might appeal to you in some way. Perhaps you're in a walk of faith right now and you're struggling along and tripping over things. Perhaps you're beginning to sink in the waves. If we can interest you in any of these further ministries of Nightsounds, please avail yourself of them. Our mailing address is Nightsounds, Wheaton, Illinois, 60189. If you'd like a catalog giving an overview of the entire field of ministries, once again our mailing address is Nightsounds, Wheaton, Illinois, 60189. Our email address is nightsoundsradio, that's one word, at AOL.com. Our title tonight is Watch Your Step. Fiona Choi had a bit of verse here entitled Baby Steps. How many of you remember of your parents, your child's first attempts at trying to walk? They were the everlastingly most beautiful moments that I can remember. And they're so funny because the little guy or the gal doesn't have far to fall when they start in. So they sit down and they get up again, they crawl to their feet, try another couple of steps, and there's the dad or mom over there. Come on. You're making it. You're doing great. Anyway, here's the poetess as she speaks of baby steps. Sometimes I take baby steps to obey my father, like a child somewhat on the move to do a parent's bidding, but a little putting off making excuses, dragging feet, and body language that signals all too clearly, okay, I'm on the way, but slowly. My feet move, but my spirit is glued with reluctance. I fear perhaps the consequence of unabridged disobedience, yet I'm not tasting the joy of hasting to do His will. So I shuffle my feet and just take my time. Baby steps are what they are. Steps of the child so far, only the hallmark of infancy. With sluggish compliance and clogged motivation, I have so far to go. Yes, I have, before I learn to sprint at the slightest hint of my Father's desire, and to savor His delight and mine when I measure giant steps to do His pleasure. Again, walking denotes destination. Each of us is walking in some direction in our lives, spiritually. Are we walking toward or with our God? Or are we stealing away from Him? Perhaps sort of on tiptoe, and then starting on a dead run? Let's be careful of our steps as we go through a day tomorrow, or perhaps are on our way tonight. Jesus says, come to me. Some years ago, I ran across a spiritual, and its title is, I Want Jesus to Walk with Me. We probably really should have titled it, Lord, I Want to Walk with You. But Jesus did promise that he would be an advocate, someone to stand and walk alongside us. So right now we're going to start with a little rhythm, a basic drum beat, and then we come in with the old spiritual, I want Jesus to walk with me all the way.
I want Jesus to walk with me. I want Jesus to walk with me all along my pilgrim journey. Oh, I want Jesus to walk with me. I want Jesus to talk with me. I want Jesus to talk with me all along my pilgrim journey. Yes, I want Jesus to talk with me. Walk with me. In my trials, Lord, walk with me. In my trials, Lord, walk with me. All along my pilgrim journey. Yes, Lord, I want Jesus to walk with me. Walk with me. When I'm lonely, Lord, walk with Jesus, me. Walk with me. When I'm weary, Lord, walk with me. Walk with me. All along my pilgrim journey. Oh, my Lord, I want Jesus to walk with me. Jesus, walk with me. I want Jesus to walk with me. I want Jesus to walk with me all along my pilgrim journey. Oh Lord, I want Jesus to walk with me. Yes, Lord, I want my Jesus to walk with me. Oh, I want Jesus to walk with me.
Another of the Nightsounds Golden Treasury recordings, I Want Jesus to Walk with Me. In our program tonight, Watch Your Step. As we're thinking tonight about Peter in that account in the Gospels of walking on the water that stormy night on the sea, well, he learned in those moments that he really did have faith enough to attempt mighty things, but he also learned how much farther he had to go. He was growing, but he really hadn't arrived yet, like we haven't arrived. And that's probably the reason why the Lord allows us to come up against those faith-stretching tests and those dead ends of doubt in our lives. He wants to show us we're still of little faith. Maybe we've been telling ourselves that we're people of great faith, but at the dead end, staring into the teeth of sheer impossibility, we learn how far we really have to go. But God has promised to be with us all the way in those awful moments where we really have to trust. We're on our last few steps, we feel, but He is there. He said, I will never leave you or forsake you. And now as we close these moments of today and look forward to another experience and walk with our God tomorrow by faith, I just want to say thank you so much for being with me tonight and for sharing these few moments at the end of the day. Till next time, may God be with you in a very near and beautiful way tomorrow as you walk with Him. And good night.
Thanks for listening to this digitally delivered edition of Night Sounds with Bill Pearce. Before you log out, please support our web and app platforms by clicking the Donate tab. Your generous contribution helps us continue bringing Night Sounds to you with new technologies. Thanks for listening to the digital edition of Night Sounds with Bill Pearce.